What's good, YouTube? It is I, Croc Thrasher. I hope you're having a good day. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the difficulty of each weapon and how easy it is for a new player to pick up. Like, what weapon can a new player pick up, or what weapon should you pick uh, in Monster Hunter and Monster Hunter Wilds? So yeah, it's going to be like in a tier list format, since the tier list seems to be doing pretty well on the channel. So, if you like it, if you have your opinions, do that down there below. You know where to go. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first weapon we're gonna rate on the list is the longsword. How difficult is the longsword? Should a new player pick it up as their first weapon? Is it really challenging? Is it easy? Is it even a good weapon in general? I just want to say this: all the weapons in Monster Hunter are good. It doesn't matter, if it's early game, mid. All the weapons are good, and you could choose whatever weapon you want. But specifically for the longsword is a flashy weapon. It has a lot of reworks in Wild specifically, and it's all about combos now. It's all about combos, and it's fluid, and it's seamless, and it's all these things. But people don't tend to talk about is that the weapon is pretty difficult to play properly. I don't even I don't play the weapon much anymore, but even I am having a hard time sometimes to like figure out what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm just hacking and slashing, and yet it works. So most people do gravitate to this weapon as a first pick because of how flashy it is, and they're like, oh, it looks cool, right? It looks cool, looks amazing. I'm not gonna diss that because it does look cool. But as a first weapon, I personally would not pick this. I would put this somewhere in the middle spot. Something it's easy to it's easy to just look at it and be like, oh yeah, I want to do that, and you not even understanding how the weapon works, because there's a gauge you have to fill, there's counters that you have to do, and well, in order to play the weapon properly, right? And with Wilds, it has a lot of reworks, so like you can cancel out Handbreaker, uh you can even do an attack out of Handbreaker, or do an extra attack out of it. You can now, this weapon has the ability to make a lot of wounds. Most weapons don't make a lot of wounds, so this weapon has a lot of it, a lot of things going for it. But I wouldn't put this weapon very highly as for a new player to just pick up and go. So I'll put this in like B tier of picking up. Next weapon here we have the Great Sword. The Great Sword is a very strong weapon, very powerful weapon. It can block, it could do an offset in Wilds, and it's a very slow weapon at that. So that's why you'll see some people, some speedruns and stuff. If you ever watch those things, they'll do like big burst damage, because that's what the Great Sword is all about. It's all about the big bursts, and that's why the attacks are so slow. You have to shoulder tackle in order to poise the attack, or hyper armor the attack if you play Dark Souls. Um, you know, you can block. They want you to block in Wilds to do the clash. It has both things. The offset is a little bit tricky to use, but you can do it like reactionary. Not reactionary, but you can do it somewhat. So I guess reactionary is the word. Somewhat reactionary. Um, uh, Normally I would say greatsword is probably shouldn't be your first weapon, because, well, because of how slow it is, and it really, greatsword is one of those weapons where you have to take it that all the weapons, you have to do this. You have to like know the patterns of the monster that you're fighting, and greatsword is like especially demanding on that front. But in Wilds, I think they kind of dumbed it down a bit, and I would say that Wild's Great Sword is really good for a new player to just pick up and just get used to it. Just know that the shoulder tackle is what most likely you're going to be. Uh, that's like probably the only thing that you probably have to just get used to, is just shoulder tackling. But other than that, I mean, the weapon's pretty good. It's a pretty good weapon. I'll put the weapon in A tier of simplicity to pick it up, like as a new player. Next, we have the dual blades. The dual blades is also a pretty simple weapon to just pick up for a new player. It's really just hack and slash. It's kind of like if you just wanted to play like God of War, or honestly like Dark Souls. If you just wanted to just press one button, well, you kind of have to press multiple buttons. But with the introduction of Elden Ring, I mean, you press multiple buttons anyway. But as I was saying though, uh, Dual Blades is the hack and slash type of weapon in this game. The only thing new players will have to get used to is the stamina draining of Demon Mode. But I feel like other than that, I mean, the weapon is pretty simple. They added like an iframe dodge, and the combos are kind of very simple to do. It's just honestly just triangles, circles, and combine those two with R2 Demon Mode and just repeat. This weapon creates a decent amount of wounds on, especially on this guy. It creates a decent amount of wounds, and you can just keep on just attacking. Um, but it's simple, easy to pick up. You may not see big numbers at the beginning, but in the end build, like at the end game, this weapon usually flourishes out to being like a top tier weapon in speedruns. I think I'm pretty sure it is because of how elemental damage works. But for just speaking on behalf of the weapon and picking it up, I think this weapon is a good choice for new players to pick up. So I'm gonna put it in S tier. Next, we have the sword and shield. The sword and shield is a very classic weapon. It's been in the game since day one, like the great sword. It's pretty simple. You can heal when your weapon is drawn. Not a lot. I don't think any other weapon can do that. You can sharpen while your weapon is drawn. It's kind of just like the overall, just like best weapon for mobility. From ability sake, like in order to just heal, attack, and do that all at the same time while your weapon is sheathed, so you don't have to keep sheathing and unsheathing and sheathing and unsheathing. This weapon has it all. It can stun, it can do good slashing, it can do decent burst. Man, not as much as other weapons, but it can do it. And it has aerial attacks built into it as well. I think this weapon is overall like probably the best weapon to just pick up as a new player. And you could do perfect guards, which is insane for this weapon because normally you wouldn't want to block with this weapon in previous games, but now with the perfect block, it's actually kind of viable. It's actually kind of viable now, and that's period, point blank. S tier. Next weapon is the hammer. The hammer is a strong weapon. It's basically if great sword could stun, that's what be this weapon. I mean, the great sword can't stun, but this weapon is literally just built for it. It can charge. You can walk around while you're charging. It can stun if you hit the monster in the face. It is a simple weapon. Like I'm gonna say that a lot, but I probably wouldn't suggest this for a new player. Because last time I suggested this to a new player, I told them how they should play it, and they just completely, maybe they were just bad players or something, but I told them just hit the face, and they had a tough time hitting the face, and then they kept doing the one move that was really bad. So I don't know. I don't even know, but I mean, I thought that this weapon was pretty simple to use, but apparently not. So here I am discussing whether a new player should use this weapon and rating the difficulty. Well, me personally, I don't think it's that difficult. I don't think it's that difficult. I think it just requires a little bit of patience. Just to line up the shot on the head, get that one swing, and just roll out if you need to. You don't need to sit there at the monster's head all the time, doing thinking what you doing what you think you need to do. You just need to just be patient and just hit the monster when you're comfortable. Um, it can stun, gives you some more freedom to attack. The new hammer for wilds is actually pretty darn good as well. It has an offset. I couldn't do the offset because the offset's pretty hard, so I don't recommend reliably doing that. Uh, you know, it does look cool when you do it, but I don't think it's reliable to do it consistently. But other than that, I mean, no, I think the weapon is good. I think it's a strong weapon. I think that it's simple, despite, getting one of my friends to do it, but he kind of sucked at it. Um, it has iframes now, like when you're charging, you can do like a little grapple and charge. And it has combos now too. You can like keep chaining combos with your hammer. Like you could do your earthquake move into spinny bludgeon into your normal uppercut move into another spinny bludgeon into earth shatter or whatever it's called, and you just keep doing that. Like it's just super freaking fluid. So I would put this in. I would personally put this in S tier for a weapon to pick up, but because my one friend kind of sucked at it as a new player, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I'll put it in A tier. The next weapon is the hunting horn. The hunting horn is a support weapon, but you don't have to play it like just a support weapon. Despite it being a support weapon, it still does a lot of damage, as you will see here in this clip. It actually does pretty darn decent damage, and honestly, it might do more damage than the hammer in certain circumstances. But it is a very good starting weapon. I think a lot of people should, new players should use the hunting horn. It can buff you. Certain songs you play notes. You play notes, and in combination, the different types of notes that you play in combination play a song or whatever, and the song gives you different buffs. So if you look at the top, you can see like self improvement. You can see attack increase. You can see fire res or fire resistance, and etc. etc. Every hunting horn is different, so every hunting horn will have different buffs, stronger buffs, weaker buffs, different things. Some of them heal, some of them give you defense, some of them give you attack, some of them, give you earplugs. You got to find which one you like, and since you could run two weapons now, I think everyone should. Well, not maybe not everyone, but I think that the new players should tour around with this weapon. I think it's a very good starter weapon. It's pretty fun to use too, believe it or not. Kind of just dancing around and getting groovy with the monster while you're doing it. So I would rate this weapon as a good starter weapon to use. I would rate it S tier for a new player to just pick up and use. Next up, we have the lance. Lance is kind of like the sword and shield, but lance is more stationary. It is literally meant for blocking and countering. If you like countering and like, okay, you wait for the monster to hit me, then I, you know, unleash something, tenfold, or, just basic counters and stuff like that. You know, uh, Lance is your guy. Consistency. That's what Lance is. Lance is all about consistency. Um, and with all the reworks in Wilds, I think that Lance has never looked better. Um, Lance has been like basically the same since since the beginning of time. Um, but yeah, they added like a triple poke by pressing triangle. They added like the power guard. Gives you more damage. When you get hit, the more attacks you get hit by. So that's gonna be something. I barely had to use that move, but maybe in the future, when you get guard up and guard, maybe that attack will actually do like pretty good burst. I'm hoping like more than greatsword damage, because the way it sounds cool. Like the more damage you guard, the more damage that attack will do. That just sounds amazing. I wish it was a more. If I had to ask, I would wish that attack, the power guard thing was more like, it just buffs your lance up for like the next, I don't know, couple pokes. Maybe then, I would love it. like that. But I mean, I do love the lance. Don't get me wrong, but I wish it was like that instead of just the one attack gets power increase. But lances lances come out consistency. They added a lot of cool things. It looks boring to play, but trust me, it's not. Especially when you're doing the new perfect guard. There's a perfect guard now, just like Sword and Shield and Chargeblade. This weapon has a perfect guard now, and it just flows into the combat as well. So I would say this weapon is a good weapon to pick up for a new player. You might not like it as a new player, but I think everyone should try the lance out. I'm gonna put it in S tier. Next up, we have the cooler cousins for the lance. We have the gun lance, the cousin of the lance. Now, the gun lance is basically like lance, but it's, don't get me wrong, it plays a lot differently than lance. It plays similarly, like it still has the pokes, but the lance is all about the pokes. This one's all about the shelling and how you get to use your shelling. Now, with the perfect guard, they added that they added in wilds. The perfect guard is actually like pretty helpful in this game because you could do a tech, you could do a guard reload, which you have to guard and press circle at the right time. And as long as you get the perfect guard, your character will do like an animation cancel reload, and then you can just unleash. As long as you follow it up, as long as you hit the perfect guard while doing it, you can hit the a ground burst or ground blast or whatever. Um, I think this weapon is a bit harder to play for the normal player because of how slow and how clunky it can feel. But that's because of inexperience, and that's also because of you know, it's supposed to be a little bit harder. It's supposed to be like it's supposed to like Lance is supposed to be the easier version. Gun Lance is supposed to be the more technical version. That's why, it's Lance, but Gun Lance. Um, but no, this weapon is good. Um, it can do a ton of damage, as you can see, and followed up with the tech I just explained. Like this weapon just got improved big time with the wyvern stakes and the wyvern fire and everything, like the combos you can do with this. If you do want to dedicate yourself to it, I think it's well worth it. But for new players, I wouldn't suggest this weapon to you. I would suggest learning the lance or sword and shield first, and then maybe coming back to this when you have skills like evade extender and stuff like that, like guard and stuff, and then come back to this weapon, because this weapon will not feel fun to play, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Same thing goes with all the weapons, right? But it's more for like there's a couple handful of weapons that I will say that for, and gun lance is one of them. For on the tier list, I would put this weapon for difficulty for a new player. I would put it in. I'll put it in C. Put it in C tier. For the switch axe is actually pretty simple. It's actually pretty easier than you might think. It's honestly just morphing into axe and sword mode. I like it's really like once you just press R2 to enter it, and you can do it like mid combo, so you can just like axe mode, hit, boom, press R2, switch to like it will switch to sword mode as you're attacking and do another attack, boom. Like it's fluid. It's kind of like a dance. Um, so for simplistic sake, I would say it's a pretty simple weapon to use. But you have no shield. Um, it's it's a little slow. For some reason in wilds, like especially the sword mode swipes, I feel like they're very slow compared to other games, other Monster Hunter games. But you have an offset. You have two offsets, one in sword mode, one in shield mode, one in axe mode. Sorry. You have when your sword is heated, you won't bounce, which is awesome. Take it that I actually don't know that yet, because there wasn't a single monster in the beta that for like had super hard skin that will make it bounce. So we don't even know if that is a thing. But back in the old games, it was a thing. You can latch onto the monster and do this little move right here, which is really cool. That I'm really glad that they brought that back. I was scared that they was gonna take that away from World, but nah, it's back in the game, boys. Overall though, the Switch Axe is a fun weapon. It looks cool. It has pretty cool looking weapons, especially in past games, like really cool looking weapons, like weapon designs. And just watching the sword, the axe mode, just switch to sword and sword switch to axe, and all that stuff is just amazing. The the focus attack is okay. Focus attack is okay. You kind of need evade extender for this, so I'm not gonna. I don't think new players should play it, but you can, right? You can pick this weapon up as a new player, and you can get a lot done with it while looking in style. So I'm gonna have to put this in. I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this in A tier. All right, next up is the Insect Glaive. Now, on my other tier list, I rated the Insect Glaive pretty low on the performance list, and I still kind of agree with that. But Insect Glaive has always been it was usually a floating. They turned it into a floating weapon in World, and that was kind of the playstyle that everyone used it for. And in this day and age with wilds, you not being able to do that is kind of like muscle memory that you do want to do it, but you kind of like have to back up a little bit and be like, okay, you can't do that no more, so we have to figure out a different way to play. So that's probably why I rated it really low on the list, and now it's still pretty low on that list, but it's a little bit higher now for this list. um and the reason for that is because, well, it is a fun weapon, and you can learn a lot of mechanics with this weapon. Um, it's hard to pick up, but it's hard to pick up and hard to master in certain situations. But if you like, you know, bugs, if you're like a unique person that likes, being unique, then this weapon is for you. But it is a bit difficult, especially when you first pick it up. You have to like get the full move set by getting the bugs, and there's a lot of different things like this, like all this. Like, bro, what, like, to the trained eye, you know what's going on, but to the untrained eye, you like, how do I do that? But I wouldn't suggest this for a new player. I would suggest this for a veteran player. Uh, Insect Glaive, I don't think is at all any shape or form for new players. So I would stay away from it. But it is a good weapon. I will say that. Okay, it's a good weapon. I just don't think it's for new players. So my rating for it on the tier list would probably be C. The next weapon will be the bow guns. Both the bow guns. I think both of the bow guns for a new player is they're simple, but they're not simple at all actually, because you don't know what the ammos do, you don't know what all that stuff does. So just quickly, without any further ado, so we can get to the next one. The bows, they are not good early game. Usually they are not good solo play because you have to manage your ammo. You have to, like, there's a little bit of extra information, kind of like the insect glaive, right? There's more information with certain weapons, and the just like the insect glaive, right, where you have to manage your buffs and stuff like that. With the bow guns are kind of like that too, where you have to manage your ammo, you have to craft ammo and stuff like that, and it's not very convenient for a new player. It is a good weapon, don't get me wrong. It's probably the best weapons out there for DPS and speedrun wise. But for new players to pick up, they have to manage their ammo. They probably don't know what the hell they're doing, and it's not. It didn't really get changed much. Uh, uh, Light bow gun did. I actually don't even know what the heck I'm doing, to be honest. Like this light bow gun is so, it's so weird. I don't even understand. Like I'm doing like little baby milky damage. I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'm cycling through my ammo. I don't even know what I'm doing, bro. So no, don't pick up these weapons early game. Figure out the weapons in late game when you already have like max gear and stuff like that. Me personally, I'm staying away from this, and I would suggest new players should too, because if I don't know, I can't expect someone that's new to know. So I'm gonna have to put this, both of the bow guns, the heavy and the light, in D tier. Next up we have the bow. The bow is not really much of a complicated weapon, but it doesn't really do that much damage early game. Uh, and it requires a lot of stamina management and understanding like the charges, and now like you have this little heat seeking arrow, which is cool. You have Dragon Piercer, which is cool. You have your power shot, infinite power shot kind of, which is cool. The only issue with this weapon, in my opinion, is that the DPS early game isn't really that good, and two, um, the stamina. Like you might have a hard time with stamina. This weapon doesn't, from what I've tested, uh, I've hunted. I've tried. This weapon doesn't make wounds for some reason. It doesn't make a lot of wounds, man. It really doesn't. Like that wound right there, that wound that I have on that monster right there, that is the only wound that I created throughout this whole hunt. And it's only brought back up because he's enraged. So I don't know what they're trying to do with this weapon. I wouldn't suggest it to a new player. I don't think it does that much. It does do damage for sure, but it doesn't do that much compared to the other ones. Um, and on top of that, the stamina management, like you need dash juice or energy juice drink or stuff like that, right? You need stamina, and for a new player, like that might be a hassle. But the one saving grace is that when you do like uh, a perfect dodge, you will gain some of that stamina back. So that is a huge thing. Maybe I could show a clip of me doing a perfect stamina dodge. Now I don't think the bow is too hard to play. I think it's kind of like the dual blades. It's pretty simple to play. You just gotta, you know, cock your bow back and aim and shoot, and then you have like your triangle to put your power shots in there, and now you have your square to add the heat tracing shots in there too, and then maybe throw in some spread shots, which is circle, like when you like that one right there, the little shotgun shot. You know, it's actually pretty simple. I wouldn't suggest it though because of the stamina thing, but me just looking at the gameplay now, I kind of do see how simple it is, and I could see no new players using this weapon, so I'm gonna put this in A tier. The final weapon, my baby, the Chargeblade. Chargeblade in to the community is considered one of the hardest weapons to play. Me personally, I don't believe that. It is very technical, though, I will say. Like, there's a lot of things you must know. Like, you must know how to get your files. You must know how to reload your files. And you must learn how to store your files into your shield. So, maybe I'll take that back. It is pretty... It's not difficult. It's just technical. Uh, so, no. I would not recommend this weapon at all for new players. Maybe once you mastered the gun lance and the switch axe, maybe then give this weapon a shot. But no, I stay away from this weapon. That's it. I mean, it's good. It's a very good weapon. Don't get me wrong, but I would not suggest this to a new player at all. At all. Zero, 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 zero. I've tried so many times at teaching multiple people how to play this weapon, and like, it just didn't work out. People that were in college and they just didn't understand what I was putting down. So no, stay away from this weapon. Anyways, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Peace out.